insurance when you're transporting cargo from coast to coast or country to country. And so under maritime law, these owners of the shipping businesses have to comply with, like, the Lloyd's of London registry.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it's like another tax, like VAT on them.
Well, it's like another tax, but when ships go to distant lands, those ports have to be covered by a safety certificate. And that means that people go there to inspect the port to be safe to shipping, which Lloyd's register carries insurance on. And one of the companies that I traced was a Lonro subsidiary who bought a dock facility in Sierra Leone. Now, Sierra Leone, sorry, I'll rephrase that, Equatorial Guinea. Now, you know that Simon Mann and his cronies, Nick, what's it, just trying to think of his name now, Nick Dutoit,
yeah,
who is a relative of Christoffel Petrus Dutoit, assisted Simon Mann and Sir Mark Thatcher in the Equatorial Guinea coup. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Now, there was a company.
But how is that linked to the shipping transactions?
Well, because that dockside facility was sold to Lonro just after the Equatorial Guinea coup. And what they were trying to do was, there were SAS guys that went there to do a recce on that dock, where front companies owned by Executive Outcomes bought a couple of trawlers, and it was said that they were part of this network of PMCs, private military companies, who were going to use that port to bring in troops or mercenaries and land them at that dock. Do you understand?
Uh-huh. And is there any, in that law or in that system of law enforcement or, supervising the deals, is there any reference to collateral currency, which Peter used to get all...
losing your voice track.
Peter used to get all het up about the collateral currency issues and how nations like Japan had been robbed of their gold in World War II, and all the South Pacific nations were missing their gold as well. But is the need for collateral currency to underpin a fiat currency deal to make it more legitimate? Have you heard anything?
To do with Lloyd's?
I just wondered whether that was part of this maritime law concept.
I'm not going into that's something that I'm not familiar with. I know the people and the company that went to Equatorial Guinea to overview the security of that dock in regard to ships who sail under the Lloyd's registry, and that they would be guaranteed a safe entry into the port, and that the security surrounding the port was good enough to carry shipping as registered under the Lloyd's registry, under the maritime law.
Right.
So these were a group of SAS commanders who were working with people like Simon Mann, Tony Buckingham, Tim Spicer, and what's his blinking name, Justin Longley, to infiltrate areas that were later used in a coup. And that company and that dockside was purchased by Lonro and the directors of Lonro. So I say no more. 22 Arlington Street.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
I haven't talked to Tim yet, but he's said that, that's one of the focuses in Japan. And, so getting justice that way. So I was hoping it was going to be a broader response than the one that you've just, I was hoping that it's a new form of...
I don't know everything, George. All I know about is economic crime and the people, the directors, and the companies that are conducting it. That's what I know.
Uh-huh. Well, you see, with that collateral gold thing, and you know all about how much gold fraud there is, I was led to believe that.
No, what I know is that people who are directors of companies that go into countries like the Democratic Republic of the Congo and are placed in positions of management who then conduct corporate espionage by stealing that sovereign country's assets and then shipping gold, cobalt, uranium, copper, zinc, tin, no matter what product it is, diamonds, it doesn't matter. These people infiltrate corporates and then steal the assets. But in order for them to move it and to launder it, they have to set up shell companies to receive it, who then purport that they have mined it. And that's how they conduct a full circle of asset stripping a sovereign-based country's assets, mineral and oil assets, and moving them using shell companies, declaring that that is their product. It's not. It's stolen.
On that theme, have you heard of Hanover secretaries?
100%.
Tell me a little bit.
Well, I've got dossiers on it.
Because they're linked to this Lord, what was the name?
Yes, of course they are.
LordMarkham.
Yes.
That's the man who lives in Ukraine for his business address.
That's right.
And is connected to the Rothschild's web.
That's right.
So just tell me a little bit about the Hanoverian secretaries, because it's massive, and they've got thousands of collapsed companies in their transcript, it looks like.
That's the problem, George, is that nobody overviews and conducts due diligence into how a corporate entity can have thousands of collapsed and dissolved companies. Nobody. People like Vince Cable should be placed in shackles, because his position as the business secretary is to protect this country. And that's why I've made sure that he is made aware of, in recorded emails that have been sent to his office, where I accuse him of sitting on his backside while this corporate espionage and billion-pound fraud is allowed to continue in the city of London. Not in Burkina Faso or Nigeria or in the depths of the Congo. These people are conducting corporate espionage in the city of London and is supported by members of the House of Lords and members of Parliament who are non-executive directors of the boards of these companies.
Well, I got my link to the Hanoverian Secretaries Limited to directly to Nathaniel Rothschild and all the companies that they have running out of St James's.
That's
and
correct.
there are other links to the royal connection in St James's, which is entirely a royal place. It's
well, if you look, if people were to take the time and overview that magnificent expose by ABC Four Corners, the Bad Company film, and they were to watch that and see the address where Mark Wellesley Wood took the reporter in London to 6 St James's Place, out of that very same building as Johannesburg Consolidated Investments were multiple other companies, and they were being run by the same corporate network of directors who were asset stripping all the other companies that were in that same address. But Mark Wellesley Wood works for Investec, and not only does he work for Investec, he also works for multiple other fake money laundering oil mining companies which are conducting the same corporate espionage as JCI and Durban Rudaport-Deek.
Well, that took me, when I became aware of that person, you know how focused the world is on Ukraine at the moment and all the geopolitical tyranny that's occurring there. When I saw that we had a lord there with his registered business address there, I had a little bit deeper look. And when you look at his actual name before he got the lordship, which is available on the business registers, you find that he's a Rayner. And when you look at the Rayners, it takes us back to those virtual gas and oil frauds in Yorkshire, right in the heart of Cyril Smith's constituency that were in the news. That's Crown Oil. You remember I told you about how much fun I had on the chat lines with Crown Oil. I rang them up on the chat lines. They were hoping to sell me shareholdings, but when I said, where is your actual production units across the globe? They went into an embarrassing silence mode, and I got referred to several different people on the chat line. None of them could answer that question because they have no product. That is Crown Oil, directly adjacent to Rochdale. I'm taping this.
Well, I said, if you spend the time, like I have, to dismantle a corporate's AIM admission to trade 26 document, you can see the money laundering routes that they use to steal the money from the parental company and move it to subsidiaries where they're also directors of. They then move those stolen assets, albeit shares or cash, to British Virgin Islands, Panama, Northern Cyprus, Channel Islands, and that money is then silted out, and it's stolen. There's no other word for it. It is stolen. And the minions of this country that sit and watch cops on camera and cops war on crime and cops chasing down motorway people who haven't got insurance for their cars. Nothing is said about £1 billion corporate espionage that is being freely undertaken in the City of London. Nobody. Because you're all distracted to watching Coronation Street or the Jeremy Kyle show, which is the propaganda distraction tools used by people like Murdoch to take people away from the realities of where this £1 billion fraud is being conducted.
That's Murdoch, who has negotiated the B Sky B deal.
That's right.
With the Rothschild that started me on my research this morning, and is also on the Prince's Trust and also in the Future of Russia Foundation. It is a powerful, greedy cabal right at the head of government, and it is stealing from the people. And the methods that they are using are ever so simple when you talk about them and you explain them to the lay public. Can we do that issue of the AIM when you've got some more time later this afternoon?
It will be this evening because I have other commitments this afternoon.
And just to confirm in that discussion we had earlier that Michael Moore is in receipt of our claims, he's accused me of being abusive when we are explaining how cabinet members and heads of state are stealing from their own citizens. He has a slanted sense of perspective on the commitment that politicians should be giving to their constituents. I asked him for advice on running for office, and he gleefully declared that I've left it far too late to consider that now.
Well, you don't have to consider being elected to any council or government. What you should do is, the people that are elected are public servants. They are open to public scrutiny for their involvement in aiding and assisting others in corporate espionage. If you have information which is factual information on corporate espionage, you have a duty of care to report that to the authorities. Those people who are in positions of public office, who are responsible for business sectors and corporate crime, these are the people who are ignoring the facts of forensic evidence, which clearly shows the transcontinental syndicate of organized criminals are asset stripping thousands of virtual companies. They are not real companies. They are companies in name only, where the only employees are the directors. Nothing to do with 6,000 people working down a gold mine. These are people who have just purchased an exploration claim which cost you about 50 quid. And these people then go on to float shares on various stock exchanges to the value of 500 million pounds, and then they steal it. Nobody questions it, George. Nobody.
And that, because that money is sloshed into the economy, like the quantitative easing funds before we embarrassed the government, and they stopped doing that in 2011. They're still doing it en masse in Japan, and we'll hear about that in the interviews with my new friend Tim from Japan in the next few days. But because of what's happening there, we've got hyperinflation globally again, like we had in the 1930s. The government are in complete denial about the inflationary statistics because they cannot reveal that all of that new money is being sloshed into the European and global economies using the monetary institutions that then lend it to impoverished states at a huge rate of interest. That means that those impoverished states can never get wealthy and prosperous like the rest of the developed world. It is brutal and greedy on a scale that is unprecedented, and you and I are going to bring it down with the help of investigative journalists and radio programs internationally. So on the 21st of July, we go live in the USA, and this week we can be live in Japan in a three-corner discussion. That I missed the guy's call earlier this morning. Michael Moore was made aware of that last night. Michael Moore said that he sees my correspondence on his crimes as, what was the term I used before? Abusive. Now, that maybe...
How can he be abusive? He's a public servant. He has a responsibility to the public for which he has served and has been duly elected.
Yeah, and
Not the other way around.
he's a chartered accountant, and he is a registered director on the parliamentary... What was the thing? The Westminster Foundation, the Westminster Foundation for Democracy Limited, which is just a laundering tool, using registered companies like the one that we talked about earlier, that is there simply to launder British Treasury cash out of the British Treasury and into private accounts offshore, where it is beyond regulation. Michael Moore was a registered director, and on my website you can see his registered director number and the whole story about the Parliamentary Foundation for Democracy Limited. You can also see the whole story about the Fleming family conducting similar operations.
Well, did you know J.P. Morgan is also J.P. Morgan Fleming? Did you know that?
Nope.
Well, there you go.
Nothing surprises me since I learned that Margaret Hodge, the head of the regulators in the Parliament building, was an Oppenheimer. There are no surprises for me anymore. Anyway, I'll talk to you this evening, and we can make an articulate video about the aim and the abuses of the stock market in London.
Okie doke.
Cheers for now.
Take care.